The industry is moving a lot towards much lower ABV beers, so 2-3% beers. It's not an easy task to make a low alcohol beer, especially an IPA, that's really drinkable. The alcohol serves a purpose. It carries a lot of the flavor compounds, it provides some structure to the beer. But we were up for the challenge. I knew of Ben because he had won the homebrewing competition back in 2021. He was American Homebrewer of the Year. I was a little bit afraid of him because I didn't know him, but because I thought if this guy ever wanted to open a brewery in Arlington, he would probably kick our butts.
Tom looked at me and he recognized me. It was like this really sort of geeky moment that no one has ever recognized me for that.
Ben is a real professional. He has a PhD in microbiology. He literally is Dr. Yeast. We were batting around a lot of ideas what would make a really compelling summer beer. So we kept thinking simultaneously about finding another IPA that was distinct and interesting. We landed on wanting to do a really refreshing, low alcohol beer, right? Something that you could drink on the beach all day long.
When I'm developing a recipe, I start to think about, okay, if I want the beer to have this particular characteristic, what do I need to put in? And I'm always trying to think about how can I put the least amount of stuff in a beer as possible and get the result that I want. Because everything is in a beer is there for a reason. Everything from the malt to the hops to the calcium chloride that's in the water. The yeast that we select, the mashing temperature, everything is there because it gives us a particular result. And so, that's all on paper though. It's like in my head and it's on paper. And then at some point I have to stop tinkering with it and give it a try. So then make the beer and see how it goes. So it doesn't always happen right away, but the more I brew, the closer I get on the first try.
It is a lot like cooking. You want to imagine what are the key things you want to have. What is the flavor profile you want to have in the beer? What's the alcohol content? And then you sort of start to go into what are the components of the beer. So you have grain, you've got hops, you've got yeast, you got water. Reinheitsgebot, right? So at that point you start to go, okay, if we're trying to do something that's grapefruit flavor forward, there's certain hops that are out there that absolutely lend itself towards that flavor profile. If you're trying to go for a low alcohol beer, well, we're still doing all grain, meaning all malted barley, but you need to start to tweak out what's the color you want, what's the general malt flavor you're trying to get out of it. Once I created that first version, I ran it past Tom, and we talked about it, and I was like, sometimes the only way you can figure it out is just do it.
The brewing process starts with malted barley. Malted barley is barley that's been harvested and then dried and then germinated. When you get that malted barley into the brewery, the first thing you do is you crack it open. So mashing is the process by which you combine the barley with water. So it hydrates the barley kernel, and the water activates the enzymes that are inside the malted barley. And there are a lot of different enzymes that you can turn on during mashing.
wind up with a wort that the yeast will only be able to partially ferment. And there'll be a fair amount that's left over, and that actually will give you what is a mouthfeel.
You drain all the wort out, leaving the malted barley behind. Once you've pulled the wort out, you can rinse all the grain to get as much sugar off as possible. So that's called a sparge and a lauter process. So you've got this sugary water, you boil it. You boil for a number of reasons. Big reason is to kill any germs that are currently in the wort. There's a lot of other reasons. One is to concentrate the wort, so the more concentrated the sugar, the higher the alcohol percentage will be. It's also an opportunity to add flavor, and one of the big flavor components you add in the boil is hops. And there's dozens, if not hundreds, of different varieties of hops.
If you put in hops at the beginning, it gives you that bitter flavor. You add them later, you get the flavor and the aroma, but you really don't get that much bitterness. And for this beer, I wanted just a modest amount of bitterness. So there are only a little bit of hops that go in the beginning of the boil. More went in at the end.
Once you're done boiling, you have to cool the wort down as fast as possible. So what you do is you take it out of the boil kettle and pump it through a heat exchanger, and it'll drop the temperature of the wort from boiling, 212 degrees, to your target fermentation temperature, somewhere between 50 and 70 degrees. After the boil, you have to be really careful about sanitation. And if you have other microbes in there, germs, those germs like the same food that yeast likes, and they do bad things. Once you've collected all that chilled wort is when you add the yeast and then close the lid. And that's when the yeast starts doing its work. It's going to gobble up all that sugar, and it's going to make flavor compounds, just depending on what type of yeast you use.
I chose a yeast that has a lower attenuation rate, which means even if there's more sugar in there to digest, they won't do it. I want this final beer to be clear. I don't want it to be hazy. So in that case, I took a yeast that also has this characteristic that it flocculates. The thing that really attracts people about IPA a lot of times is the aroma and the flavor. And that final bit comes from something called dry hopping, which is when you dump in hops at the end of fermentation. That puts into the near finished beer all the aroma and flavor you smell in a very hop forward or like an IPA. We have a Monday morning meeting. It's at 9 o'clock. I bring beer upstairs to the meeting. So I've started joining that meeting and I'm brewing. It's they at least now they expect to have beer with their breakfast, so to speak. So comments came back of saying, all right, color is a little bit too dark. Some of the hop flavors that are in here are not quite what you described as saying you want to have it grapefruit flavored. So that said, okay, well, let's change out one grain for another grain. Let's enhance some hops, bring in some different hops that will give it a more robust grapefruit citrusy flavor, and maybe reduce another one that has more like that grapefruit pithy sort of flavor, bring that down a little bit. just wanted it to be super clear.
And the color is great.
This is the meeting's all about?
Yeah, this is what I've been missing.
That's what I've been missing.
Welcome to 9 o'clock. Ben, this smells amazing.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I tasted it this morning. It's only been dry hop for less than 24 hours. It's fabulous. This is at 8:30 in the morning, so your taste buds are completely alive at that point. You haven't deadened them with coffee or whatever else you had at lunch, and it was fantastic. I may be a little bit biased.
It's pretty tasty,
It's
isn't it?
refreshing. It's like a nice hot day.
How is it so low ABV?
Magic. All right, well, enjoy. And you can come up 2 or 3 more times and not feel bad about it. You got it. Any interest in trying our new IPA that we have?
What is it?
It's a grapefruit, low alcohol IPA. Spy is a delicious beer. Don't want to take you away from that.
What did you say the name of it was?
There is no name yet, but if you come up with a great name, there might be special prizes involved for you.
Oh my gosh.
Still going, Spy?
Take one of those.
Oh, all right. Good call.
Thank you so much.
That'll be $9.
It turns out that naming beers is maybe harder than designing and making beers. Some of the names we got include the Grapefruits of Wrath, Low-Hanging Grapefruit, Res Refresher. One of my favorites was Make Arlington Grapefruit Again. That always gets a good chuckle. It's not really something I think we can put on a label.
Ah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, fantastic. Damn fine work. Cheers. That is great.
If I stay on the phone, I'm going to say something that I really regret, so I'm just going to hang up. And you send me the information, and we will figure out what to do. But I got to go, so I hung up the phone. And then it occurred to me, oh, it's April 1st. Maybe this is the worst April Fool's joke ever. It wasn't. It was real.